weight is obviously a factor in like PRS type competition, whether it be PRS, NRL, Border Wars, whatever you're shooting. A lot of guys are shooting very heavy rifles, small 6mm cartridges that don't recoil much. And the reason why you do that is when you shoot, you want to see where your bullet goes.
Big day today, everybody. Mark and I are kicking off yet another pod venture, one we're very excited about, and also one that if you're watching on YouTube, you might even be really excited about, because look at the firepower that we are working with on the table in front of us. I'm not even going to go through and name drop everything because it'd take too long to do all that. We'll get through all these guns in a bit. But on the other side of that tremendous amount of firepower, we have Mr. Nick Laufenberg, who's been on a number of podcasts before, and Justin Lipska, who's one of the instructors down at Vortex Edge. And Justin, we don't get you on enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of sequestered down there at the range. So coming out of my shell, so to speak.
That's right. And we all know that you're a very talkative person.
Yes, extremely so.
But the name of the game for this overall pod venture will be long range / precision shooting. Mark and I are thinking about trying out some form of competitive outlet within that discipline.
Something neither of us have done before.
Something quite out of character.
Which is kind of why we have this smattering of long range centric rifles.
Right.
Pointed away from us, which I think is actually a smart choice. Yeah, now, they all have chamber flags before people...
Done all that. And they're all strategically pointed around people. But anyway, some of the guns on the table, I don't know. I don't want to go out... I don't want to say that you can't use any of these guns in competition. It's possible that you could. Competition is a big part of this whole pod venture, but I think that just long-range precision stuff in general, very popular nowadays. Everybody's looking for a way to get out and do something fun, interesting, try something new. And I feel like the long-range precision stuff really coming into its own, like more and more people getting into it, which is awesome. And, of course, everybody's favorite part of the whole thing. I mean, maybe not everybody, but you're weird if you're not part of this this group of people. The favorite part is the gun. It's so exciting. It's cool. It's this new piece of machinery. It's this new tool. It's the sexy thing that's going to get you likes on Instagram when you post pictures of it after you buy it.
Well, and like you said, Jim, long range is so popular, right? People are so interested, the technology and the ballistic calculators, but it really translates over to so many. It's not like long range shooting is just like a gun like Nick's PRS gun now. Like, it is so broad now, and you can apply it to so many different genres of shooting or hunting. The gun is kind of like pick your poison. Like, this gun on the table, the sequence. Like, this has a lot of long range attributes, right? But it's a lightweight hunting rifle.
Right.
Conversely, you got the Barrett. What do we got here? The MRAD.
Yep.
A little bit different.
Yeah, not exactly a lightweight hunting gun. So anyways, Nick and Justin, you're here. You guys have experience in all sorts of different, between you guys, all sorts of different shooting disciplines in the long-range precision area. Nick, you with the competitive shooting, a lot of hunting in your background. Justin, give us a refresher, too, because you're not on as many podcasts as Nick gets to be on. So remind everybody of who you are and what your background in these types of things is.
Absolutely. So, again, not so much the competition side anymore, really. But again, my background's coming from the military side of things, long-range military. So again, I was a Special Forces sniper instructor out in Colorado with 10th Group out there. So that's kind of my background with these.
Yeah.
So pretty good.
Very understated. We got through that in about 10 seconds.
So,
that certainly has about 10 plus podcasts in and of themselves worth of stories behind it.
The thing, like getting to know and knowing Justin, that's the long form version.
Right, exactly. Right. I'm actually surprised at the level of detail you went into. But we brought this mixture of people in, and then we have, again, Mark, you with your hunting background, you've hunted in lots of different areas with a number of different rifles and stuff like that. Me, I've just kind of been the recreational, occasionally plinking around. I like
You're
weird,
pretty good, Jim.
I like weird guns. You know what I mean? I'm a weird gun guy. So, but this mixture of people we feel like can give us an idea of when somebody's thinking about long-range precision. There's a lot of different guns that you can look into, choose from, and certain attributes of certain guns may apply better to a certain use case than others. So, for example, I mean, on the table again, like I said, this is too many to really go through. We've got some guns that are maybe more suited towards hunting, but we're going to go into why those guns may not be your ideal choice for a PRS match. And then we're also going to talk with Justin here a little bit about what is it about the military or maybe even law enforcement sniper that makes their setup different from your competitive shooting setup or, again, your hunting setup. What are the things about these guns that make them good at what they do? So this is the problem. We always jump right in, and then we're like, where do we start? Let's start more on the private citizen side of things. Then we'll morph our way into the more professional duty use of long range precision rifle. How about hunting, Mark? Let me throw you a bone here. You're the guy who always likes to talk about hunting. What if we start with hunting?
Well, now I should have brought the old 3. I said, let's bring the Wisdom over here, and now you told me not to bring it. Now I wish I had it. But we got this guy instead, which actually, if you're talking about long-range hunting, a rifle configured similar or like the Seekins, to me, is like kind of a perfect blend of some long-range attributes, but it's still lightweight, it's easy to carry, it's handy, points quick. You can use it in... you're not like, oh, why am I lugging this boat anchor around the mountains? But it's still going to give you what you need. And I think also the type of, I'll speak in generalities, right? But for hunting, like taking a 1,200-yard shot is maybe not as practical a need as like if you're in a PRS competition or in some of Justin's professional work, perhaps. So I look at a gun like this and I say, cool, like probably, you throw numbers out there as far as like what the limit should be. I'm always hesitant to do that. I know
because it's different for everyone.
It's different for everybody, right?
There's so many times out there where people are like, oh yeah, 400 yards. You shouldn't, that's my limit for shooting game. So everyone's like, oh, well, you can't shoot a deer beyond 400 yards. It's like, well, there's actually some people who shouldn't even try shooting a deer at 400 yards. And there's some people who can absolutely shoot a deer further than 400 yards.
Right. So I'll
add some more color to your
thank you, Jim. No, I mean, that was a really great way to put it. And then also, like, from situations you encounter, or at least situations that I've personally encountered, I oftentimes don't have a need to shoot beyond 600 yards. I'd say most of the stuff that I've shot has been inside 600. One outlier, I shot a moose at 733. Which was a pretty long shot. Dropped it right in the pocket. Moose ran 20 yards, tipped over. Perfect conditions, perfect cartridge for the job. Like, everything was perfect to execute that shot, and I was super comfortable executing that shot. I think I've told that story before a little bit, but that was actually one, Jim, where I had the 300 Wisdom with me with an LHT. Didn't have a bipod. Wasn't expecting to have to take a shot that long. This moose came out. We built a position with our packs. And I ended up not being comfortable. Like, I was wobbly. I just was like not steady enough. I'm like, I think I would have hit it. I don't want to, break this shot and have just a mess on our hands. I ended up using my buddy's rifle. It was perfectly set up for the situation, and I got rock steady. And a guy
like Nick would tell you should have had a heavier gun with a rear bag and a big bipod and all this weight in the fore end, and then you would have been steady as a rock.
Well, I will say my buddy's gun was a heavier gun. It was a 300 Ultra Mag. It did have a bipod, and it was rock steady. And I was like, that moose actually, we're fortunate enough, it came back out into basically the exact same opening, and I got down on the gun. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can kill him right now, and felt super confident with. So anyway, where I was going with that though is, oftentimes you just don't have a need. You have a need to shoot far, but not that far, right? So that's where a gun like this is fully capable. It kind of has all the things that you need to do that job.
Yeah. Now, okay, Nick's also got his hunting gun here too, so we can discuss that a little bit. I'm sure I'm going to go out on a limb and say Nick's hunting gun is probably a bit more like a PRS competition heavy gun than would your hunting gun be.
Very Nick. For
Mark,
the people who are just listening, I just picked Nick's
just
gun
attempted
up.
to
Let's
pick it up.
let's clarify on that. This is just short of 14 pounds, so it's not super heavy.
For
Mark.
Nick, that's ultralight.
That's on one of my ultralight rigs.
Featherweight.
We live in different headspaces.
So what are guys pushing now? Like 7 pounds? You want a hunting rifle about 7 pounds or less right now in the ultralight world?
Justin, I think if the word 7 is coming, if that's the first number out of your mouth when you're talking about some ultralight hunting gun, you're in the next zip code. I mean,
What are they talking
unless
about?
What is
unless-
Dave's ultralight gun? It's like
it's
4
like
pounds.
4
5,
pounds?
I think it's about 5 pounds.
But that's like
5
with
pounds.
scope, with
With
rings,
scope,
with
with
base.
suppressor.
That
with,
barrel
she has
on
a
there is
16 and a half inch
crazy.
little pencil barrel with a titanium suppressor and all this.
I will say,
I mean, he hoofs it like 60 miles in the mountains. So I mean, there's that. But
I would
So-
rather hoof that 60 miles than one of these. I can
Yeah,
without a
yeah.
doubt.
But then again, we're talking about like different applications, different
Right.
price points, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, how much was it?
It's like
4
5 pounds.
Jeez,
yeah,
impressive.
yeah. But I
No.
mean, so,
I mean, and actually, I'll say this for me personally, and it's like it's what you like. That's too light for me. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I want a little bit heavier gun, somewhere between a total weight between like 7 and 9. I feel like is a good.
Yeah. But what you're ultimately getting into though, so there are there's arguments around the whole topic of quote long range hunting, which is one of those things that can vary greatly depending on who you are, where you are, what you're seeing, what you're shooting, all that stuff. But let's just discuss long range hunting rifles or precision hunting rifles, stuff like that here for a bit. Why are they different from what somebody is using in, say, PRS competition or even professional duty use? Because when you boil it down, I mean, I think some of us can know intuitively a few of the answers, like lightweight is what we've been discussing a lot. But why are they that much different? This gun, the Seekins Havoc here, looks dramatically different than Nick's PRS rifle and this Barrett MRAD. What is it about that application that, I mean, when you're shooting PRS and when you're a sniper, you want to be accurate. You want to put shots where you want them to go. You're going to be moving a little bit, at least. I'm sure snipers even probably move a bit, almost as much or more sometimes than a regular hunter would with their rifle. What is it about these things? Why do they make them this way?
So when I look at this gun, again, the Seekins, for example, there's a lot of other examples, as well. But like you said, Jim, accuracy is paramount. Like, you're not going to have long range without accuracy. So the gun has to be accurate. Like, that's a baseline need. But looking at the stock of this guy, and maybe I'll hold it up a little bit here, you've got more of a, kind of a precision rifle, whatever, tactical quotation mark. I'm making quotation marks with one hand because I'm holding the rifle with the other. Configuration, you got a higher cheek comb. You've got, kind of the pistol grip-ish down here and the flat forend, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you've got, the cups here, the sling cups there. So to me, along with its accuracy, that's kind of what makes it configured or set up, a little bit more optimally for like long range.
Right.
But on the flip side, though, the same gun, I'd be comfortable hunting in the timber and, whatever, blacktail gets up at 50 yards and looks at you, boom, you got him. It's still going to be a great gun for that as well.
So it kind of has to, what you're getting at is that it has to accomplish a bigger variety of tasks. Like when you're in competition, you kind of know. You don't know what every stage is going to look like, I'm imagining. But you kind of generally can tell that you're going to do some of the similar stuff.
Right. I need to know what I'm going to have to do, what the rifle's going to have to be capable of. Yeah. So, like, one of the biggest things for me, weight is obviously a factor. We in like PRS type competition, whether it be PRS, NRL, Border Wars, whatever you're shooting, a lot of guys are shooting very heavy rifles, small 6mm cartridges that don't recoil much. And the reason why you do that is when you shoot, you want to see where your bullet goes. Mm-hmm. So the less the gun recoils, the easier it is to keep that splash in your field of view, the easier it is to take an accurate follow-up shot.
And the weight is essentially mitigating that recoil.
Correct. Now, more important to me than actual weight or making the gun heavy is making the gun balanced. So like my hunting rifle right here, this hunting rifle is like perfectly balanced. I got this is a Macmillan Game Warden adjustable stock with sniper fill, and with this is a
What's the sniper fill?
Yeah, that sounds cool. I just want it 'cause it's called sniper
It's
fill.
actually heavier fill. Like, so the stock is heavier than, like, you can get edge fill, which is a lighter weight stock, and then there's the carbon fiber ones and stuff.
I don't want the weight, but I want to say that I got sniper fill.
So, Nick, when you're talking about balance, where you want that balancing point at?
I want it to be between like 3 and 6 inches forward of the magwell. So if I'm shooting off of anything besides prone position, I want to be able to set the forend on that structure, whether it be a stump, whether it be a tree limb, whether it be a top of a fence post, and I want the gun to be able to just sit there and balance. Because when I'm trying to manipulate the gun, I don't want to be inducing a bunch of muscle pressure in the rear or on the forend to actually get the gun to sit there steady. I want the gun to be doing most of the work.
Yeah.
And so with this rifle, I can put it up on just about anything with a lightweight bag. And, you know, I've taken out at the outdoor range, I've taken shots out to, well, we had the 1,000-yard. I shot just a little bit under an 8-inch group off of a stump.
Wow.
So this rifle is extremely capable, and the way it's set up, it's definitely my favorite rifle, without a doubt. Isaiah Curtis, you guys met Isaiah, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
He built this rifle for me, and it's literally my favorite gun.
Is that is part of that because it is so versatile?
It is extremely versatile. I can do anything with that gun.
Yeah.
You could probably shoot a match with that gun. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's not set up obviously the same as your full-on competition gun.
Nope.
But I mean, you took a lot of elements out of your competition gun, I feel like, in order to set that gun up the way that you wanted it for hunting. And I feel like that's what we're seeing more and more now with these long-range precision hunting rifles, is that people are taking some of the attributes. Even super lightweight Dave with his 5-pound rifle, it still has a pistol-style grip, right? It's a carbon fiber stock and all that, but it has an upright grip, not that Monte Carlo style or something like that. But they're taking those attributes and putting them in these kinds of rifles because I think they're finding that there are a select few really important things that you can add to one of these guns without taking away or without giving it too much weight. But then also I feel like one of the big things with hunting rifles still is kind of in the looks department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I think
sure.
there's still a lot of weight that people put into that, weight being not a term in relation to actual mass times gravity or whatever. But there's a lot of stock people put into. Now I'm using another term.
Jim. Okay, line them up.
Okay, importance that people put into how a hunting rifle looks too. Because if you go and you make it too much look like one of these super tactical or super competition guns, then you lose that bit of nostalgia or something around.
You really made your case there, Jim.
I think I read that all in a magazine. But
no, I think you're right. I mean, I think they're like, I keep using this as an example because I have it in front of me for hunting, right? But it's got some of those features, but it still, to me, looks and feels like a hunting rifle. To where maybe some of these, and actually this one of yours, Nick, here, does as well.
Mm-hmm.
This one, not so much. It doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't hunt with it. If that's
right.
what they want to hunt with, they totally should. Like, if that's what knock yourself out. Like, I'm the last person to say, like, well, you shouldn't hunt with that because it looks, who cares,
Well,
right?
if you don't mind lugging a 24-pound rifle, I can guarantee be a very effective hunter with that.
Damn right.
But I don't want to carry it.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, because you were mentioned shooting blacktails like at 50 yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use the term like jump shooting, but again, you could shoot standing offhand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where some of these other rifles that are a little bit heavier may have a little bit difficult time actually, shooting standing offhand.
Yeah, you really have to modify your shooting abilities with this gun over this gun. I mean, holding this up from a standing position is way easier than holding up my comp rifle, without a doubt. I mean, people can shoot, offhand with the comp rifle. I can't, but I can do it a lot better with my hunting rifle.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, there's places out there now that make super lightweight chassis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you still just don't see them that often on hunting guns. And part of me wonders if if it's just that slow to adopt because of a lot of tradition in the hunting rifles. And not that there's a problem with that, because I've got a Browning BLR lever gun as my hunting gun, even though I think that these precision guns are super cool, and I got it because it's a freaking lever gun. Like, I want to hunt with a lever gun, and I want to have it be stainless and takedown and all that, because, like, in my mind's eye, that just is a hunting rifle.
Right.
There's no two ways about it.
And it's not right or wrong. Like, and again, I'll speak just personally, but that looks like in place where some of these others, and again, it's based completely off aesthetics, which maybe doesn't have any sort of logical reason behind it, but it just seems out of place for me.
Same thing with my hunting rifle. It's a walnut stock.
Yeah.
So
with
And
the
you're-
swept grip and
yeah.
yep.
So
I mean, yeah, and with everything you've done in your previous job experience and all that, like, I'm guessing when you're out in the sandbox, not many people are carrying around walnut stock, Remington 700s or something like that.
I love talking about Justin's previous job experience. Like, so tell me about a time where you were challenged and overcame adversity. I'm sure you have a few stories actually for that.
But I guess the funny thing about starting with hunting is in the series of this episode here is that there's sort of the quintessential hunting rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of mentioned a few things, wood stock, or I've got, like, for me it's a lever gun, and for you, Mark, it's a 300 Wisdom and all this stuff. But every single gun here on the table you could hunt with.
Oh yeah,
Because in the end, they all send a round down range that anything living wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of, at least in an ideal world.
and they do it accurately.
And they do it accurately. So you kind of can hunt with anything you want. It just sort of depends. And that's actually kind of the beauty and the fun of hunting. Because you bring up, okay, 50 yards in the timber, blacktail pops out from behind a tree out of nowhere. You're not ready for it. You got to make that engagement. 733-yard moose off of a backpack up high, somewhat high angle. Sheep, super high angle, where you're on a mountain and you got to, like, get into this crazy position. Whitetail out of a, blind or something like that at 200 yards. You could encounter anything. You could have had to hike in 60 miles. You could have had to hike in
6 feet.
6 feet. I mean, it's like, it could be anything. And so therefore it's kind of hard for any of us to say, this is the hunting rifle.
Right.
Right. And I think, for a lot of those different situations, there's folks that want to have, this is my long range deer antelope gun, or this is my timber gun, or this is my, Midwest whitetail gun. For me, I kind of fall into, and some of it's just, budgetarily, right? But I kind of want to have one gun that I know really well, that I shoot a lot, that I'm familiar with. So it's kind of, autopilot a little bit when you get out.
Yeah.
that's why you prefer that 300 Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a 30 cal fire breather. If you have that, you can pretty much hunt anything in North America. But okay, well, there's our thing about hunting. I'm sure we'll get back to these, but
What about you, Justin, with your work and kind of like what you see in, guns like of this style, like where do you see the crossover?
The crossover,
Yeah.
so definitely kind of with angle, like Jimmy was talking about earlier, kind of more of that vertical instead of that swept. And then a couple other things we're going to kind of look at. One is configuration and adaptability to that shooter. So again, adjustable comb height is really nice.
okay,
So you can kind of work that on the fly. Maybe you're in a different position. Nick can probably attest to that. Prone position, you may be having a little bit of a modified position than say you might be standing or some other alternate positions. So given the time to be able to adjust that is really nice. So the comb height, the length of pull as well.
Oh, okay.
Because again, different positions require obviously just a little bit different setup. Again, time dependent and things like that. Other things, again, that this kind of has as well, you can put the bipod on it. Same thing with any other gun. Again, I view bipods as almost like a necessary piece of equipment. And a lot of people don't like sandbags. And for me, it's like, well, if you don't use a sandbag, it's kind of like not using a bipod type of thing. So kind of talking about that as well. Also rail space and real estate for the gun itself. So for example, when we talk about real estate, for this Baird, for example, we have all this available top rail space. So if you do need to mount maybe like a clip-on night vision or a thermal or something like that, you have that space to do so. Side rails. So if you have like a laser on there, an illuminator, again, all those little add-ons and accessories to kind of increase your capability, so to speak.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a full monolithic rail too, so you could mount an optic even forward and without having like a point of impact shift if you wanted
Absolutely.
to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I see
like
what you're
you don't
saying.
wanna do
There's
that
there's no split here.
Yeah, there's no split in the chassis, and the chassis is connected all the way down to the receiver.
Yep.
So,
Well, Justin, maybe we should just further go into the whole idea of a sniper rifle. Now, there's, again, like when we were talking about hunting, there are different scenarios that hunting can take place in. And with sniper rifles, there are different scenarios there. You got your law enforcement sniper in an urban environment, might not ever even take a shot over 100 yards, maybe 200 yards, something
Absolutely.
like that. Then you've got your sniper way out in a desert somewhere that may see longer shots much more frequently.
Absolutely. So,
So yeah, that's going to vary. But what?
And then conversely, you talk about different environments. Like I would imagine, if you're in the jungle versus the desert, like you may pick a different firearm. Yes or no?
so everything, what's kind of interesting, because everything we have on this table is a bolt gun. I don't see any gas guns here.
Yeah.
So kind of talking about what you mentioned earlier was target engagements. So statistically speaking, I put that in air quotes again, just because statistics are just that, right? Just a number. But again, statistically speaking, as up to like a year or so ago, the average sniper engagement was 59 yards.
Wow.
So that's it. And that's law enforcement stateside. But again, you're talking about the furthest shot, military overseas. It's well over, I think, 2,000.
Okay.
It gets, pretty crazy. So again, we're seeing a lot more departments and agencies stateside, law enforcement, actually going to gas guns. Because again, one, they're going to be a little bit shorter. Two, the application really doesn't need anything like this Barrett. Again, you may have that Murphy's Law, and you do have to take that farther shot. But average engagement, I want to say, is 59 yards stateside.
Yeah, this seems a tad overkill for 59 yards.
Well, and then also, like, beyond that 59, like, I could see where something with a little much, this has got a lot of gas. It's not a gas gun, but it's got, a lot of gas to it.
Gosh,
Like,
these terms are screwing us up.
I know, I'm like talking in circles here. But, that might be a little too much oomph where all of a sudden you've got a liability headed downrange. Even if you hit the, what you're trying to hit.
Fair enough.
Is that taken into consideration, Justin?
Absolutely. And again, we always abide by the 4 basic firearm rules of safety, right? So again, know your target beyond, kind of a 360-degree environment.
Mm-hmm.
So
when it comes to those gas guns and stuff in speaking to a stateside law enforcement sniper type role, are they using a 223, like a regular gas gun with maybe a low power variable on top?
So yes and no. So most agencies for their sniper rifles, they'll probably 308 bolt gun.
Okay.
So right now, I know certain local agencies even are going to that gas gun, same caliber.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we didn't really talk about optic on the hunting rifle. It can vary a lot, as it can with the sniper rifles we're talking about here, but I've seen a lot of them using low power variables now, like 1 to 6s.
The 1 to 10.
1 to 10
is great.
Because that's about, especially considering those distances, but even if you stretch it out to 100, 200 yards or whatever in that Murphy's Law situation, that's plenty.
Absolutely.
Right?
For example, we had an agency down there about a month ago. We were getting their microdope, so to speak. So again, 100 and in. We had a target set up at 25, and a lot of the guys were struggling because of the optic they actually selected for that rifle, whether it's a parallax or they had too much magnification on low power and things like that.
Okay, gotcha.
And what's a 25-yard sniper scenario even look like? That's not something you normally equate with a sniper. Usually people are thinking,
absolutely,
oh, it's going to be, they look like to the naked eye, they look like an ant way out there.
Very dependent on, your situation. So, for example, you may have like a vehicle hide. So you may be set up, so your hide site, I guess your final firing position will be inside that vehicle. And that vehicle may be parked right on the other side of the street of your target house. So it's fairly close.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, trying to maneuver inside a vehicle with this this Barrett here,
Yeah.
versus a smaller, more compact gas gun, or even a smaller bolt gun with maybe like an 18-inch barrel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
It makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you're going to see that 25-yard engagement as well.
Yeah. Something we talk about too with the hunting rifles now, we sort of laugh to ourselves. Going back to that traditional kind of look to hunting rifles and how people are still attached to that. Performance-wise, some people could even get a great advantage, especially in our area, our neck of the woods, to having a low-power variable on a hunting rifle.
Absolutely.
It's going to look weird to a lot of people
It
because you got that AR scope on your bolt gun, but when it's an optic that has a point of aim and a little bit of magnification, enough magnification that you need to make a ethical shot.
Absolutely. And backed off on 1 power, that's really nice to have, especially here east of the Mississippi, where most of your engagement's going to be a little bit closer in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, you look at like one of our more popular scopes is a 2.5 to 10. So your top end mag is the same. You're just gaining the low end versatility.
Right.
But aesthetically, it just looks a little different.
Right. So how about, all right, everybody wants to know about situations where people are going to use the big honking gun, right? The big old bolt gun like we have here in front of us, this Barrett MRAD. What does that look like? Why do they have something like this? Why wouldn't they go out with something smaller, more regular looking, like one of the guns we have that Mark and I built with Isaiah Curtis. We got a 6.5 Creedmoor over here in a KRG Bravo chassis. This one's mine. It looks kind of sniperish. Looks a little tactical. It's got some stuff going on with it. Why do they? What's up with this thing?
So what you can, for the majority of work, you can actually accomplish like on the military side of the sniping side of it, on the military side, a lot of it you can accomplish with this particular setup.
Okay.
But again, there's a lot of crossover between like shooting is shooting. We always kind of talk about that. So a lot of application that Nick brought up earlier about recoil management, spotting those rounds and things like that, translates into, again, kind of the sniping world, because if you don't have a spotter, you need to spot and see where those rounds are going.
Gotcha.
So that extra added weight, and again, calibers, right? So normally they'll have the bigger calibers, and again, it's a lot easier to shoot those bigger calibers. They're a little bit more forgiving, doing with a bullet coefficient and things like that, versus those small caliber rounds. So when you do have to make that 1,000-yard shot, shooting 215 grain bullet versus like a 140 grain bullet, you have higher BC and things like that, less wind deflection and things like that as well.
Okay.
So, and again, that's kind of why we go with this bigger platform.
Yeah. Are you always hoofing something like this, or when you're a sniper, do you kind of get your pick every time you go out? Like,
I carried it a couple times, and I did not like it. But no.
Was that the weight mostly? Just
mainly the weight, and it's very cumbersome.
Okay.
This one in particular, that Barrett MRAD, when you buy it, comes with a couple of different barrel options, right?
Yes, I believe so. This is the Barrett MRAD. Recently, SOCOM, Special Operations Command, they just went to this particular rifles platform.
And 308, 300 Norma.
And again, I can't, because again, different entities within the military, I believe, chose different calibers.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's the same across the board. Don't quote me on that. But it is actually really nice because, again, you see this extended and large magazine weld here. To overcome that, you can shoot like a small 6.5 Creedmoor out of it, which this is actually chambered in that. Or again, like Nick was saying, you can shoot those larger 30 calibers as well.
Okay.
So it has that. And again, it's just a proprietary magazine. So you really don't even use like 1.5 inches of the 6.5 Creedmoor magazine. It's just wasted space to take up that void.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to go out with a 6.5 Creedmoor, why not just take a smaller, lighter, easier to carry around rifle? Maybe that's just me. I'm not the guy who selected.
A weapon system like this, where you can actually switch out the cartridges that you're using, being able to screw in a 338 Lapua barrel and run it like that, can be super beneficial to a department, because you might have a situation where you need some hard target interdiction.
You might have barriers and things like that. You kind of punch
where the guy's AR-15 in the back of his squad car just ain't gonna go through. Well, this is your special purpose weapon at that point.
Yep.
Got it. How often have you just had to shoot at a vehicle to just take out the vehicle?
Not as often as you think. It's more
I
of
feel
like a
that's just
defensive
something people are always
situation.
doing.
I like that the answer wasn't never.
Yeah, it's not as often as you'd think.
So, for example, like the Barrett, not the Barrett MRED, but you think of like the 50 cal Barrett, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, the Barrett.
Yeah. So more of like a defensive type situation. I know some agencies out there, even overseas, would use that in a defensive position with a low power variable, actually the 1-6. Because again, tracking a moving vehicle with something, what is this, 4.5 to 27 versus like a 1-6. You have a lot more situational awareness. Your field of view is greater. So again, you're not actually getting lost inside that tube, which is
And
really
an engine
nice.
block is decently big. That's a good size target.
So
All you
I
gotta do is-
feel like that's
Yeah, you're not
just gotta-
hitting some bitty steel plate. You're like, no, we're trying to hit the engine.
yeah.
Yeah. And take out one of 6 cylinders. I like that. Yeah, these things are pretty cool.
In general, and maybe it's just across the board, kind of like we've been talking. Like, what is a military sniper carrying, or does it just depend on?
It kind of depends. So again, you've probably seen the evolution of military rifles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So even now they're actually switching over platforms, calibers, and things like that, which I think Nick just brought up. So they're carrying a couple different things. So example, when I was in, we were. And then since I was in, they're actually changing things.
Oh, okay.
So for example, when I was in 10th Group, we were actually fielded the 300 Win Mag, and then also a 308 gas gun, the M110.
Mm-hmm.
And again, mission dependent, situational dependent, those were basically our 2 go-tos. And again, even the 300 Win Mag's more than capable of reaching out to distance. A little bit longer, a little bit more cumbersome. So carrying it up and down mountains all the time, again, you're going to get caught on stuff, you're going to get hung up, and you're not quite as mobile.
Yeah.
Versus the gas gun, again, if you need to, it's light enough, compact enough, you can shoulder fire it as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
is your
So-
Win Mag is still in an M24 variant platform?
So no. Yes and no.
Okay.
Depending on, I know the Marines, for example,
Right.
they'll kind of stick with a little bit more traditional stuff, or at least they did when I was
Okay.
in. But now it was the Remington. What am I trying to say? What chassis was that in?
Oh,
I
I know.
can't think of it.
Is it not the KDAX chassis? Is it?
Yeah, very similar to
It's
that.
very okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So, and again, that chassis had all the real estate on there for all of your accessories and things like that. Again, the buttstock, adjustable comb, adjustable length of pull, because again, sad to say, like that gun wasn't yours. So you came to a team, you went off a team, that gun stayed on the team. So again, you can switch it up person to person, things like that.
Gotcha. Customize it.
For
to
example,
whoever's shooting it.
myself and Nick probably going to have different length of pull.
A little
Maybe
bit.
a little bit.
So
I feel like Nick hasn't gotten the chance to go into his full-on, competition PRS gun just yet. But I feel like we make fun of those guns all the time because they're gigantic and, Nick's is painted in a cool color, but sometimes they're like goofy colors and whatever.
Right.
I'm like that Kermit the Frog meme going, I wonder if the PRS guys are making fun of my gun right now, too.
They probably are. But we goof on those guns a lot because of how gigantic they are and purpose built, and they would they'd be so difficult to use hunting and all that. But a lot of the stuff that you do to those guns to make them shoot really well, it seems like what Justin's describing here, at least with guns like these, not necessarily like that urban sniper, they're doing the same stuff, but then they also have to just end up hoofing it around like hunters do.
Right.
With their rifles. So where a hunter is like, oh, well, I got to have it be super lightweight because I'm going to have to carry it a lot. And PRS guy's like, well, I can afford to go super heavyweight because I'm not going to move a whole lot on my stage. The snipers are like, oh, well, I really want to have all the nice stuff, but it's going to get pretty heavy, but I'm just going to grunt it out anyway.
Right. Well, so you'll notice, like, if you look at a lot of sniper rifles, especially like what Justin was just talking about, what they were using, they were in chassis. And the chassis system has a lot of the same functions and features that a competition gun has. And a lot of that is because the competitive shooters will borrow ideas from the sniper community, then the sniper community will borrow ideas from the competition community, and that just kind of keeps on going back and forth. You get that in all forms. A lot of 3-gun shooters, a lot of those guys are door kickers. They take that information back, what worked in the 3-gun game, because I take it back, and that's going to work in the field as well.
Right.
So the targets might be different, but ultimately what's going on when you're pulling the trigger all kind of needs to be the same. You need to hit the target. So one of the things that I like about this in particular, Mark, if you don't mind sliding that thing out so the folks on the
yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, sorry, Nick, I can't get it up. Oh boy, you ever just wish you could just
go back in time.
Nope.
I'm sure MC Ryan will edit that out.
No, Mark, there's no edits. There's no redos on this podcast. If it came out of your mouth,
it just hangs there.
Yeah.
Haunts you for the rest of your life.
Haunting. So this particular rifle, it's a Defiance Deviant Action, proof research, heavy barrel. This is their competition contour, 26 inches. It's a 6 Creedmoor, so it is a 6mm. It's not one of the super low recoiling variants. I did not opt to put all the weight kits in here. Again, what my concern is not necessarily to make the rifle as heavy as possible. I want the rifle to balance as well as possible.
Okay.
And in its current configuration, the gun.
So this
balances
isn't you
extremely
attempting to make it really heavy.
No,
This is not that.
If I wanted to make it heavier, I could add probably another 6 pounds to this.
Nick's thinking, you want me to make this
You
thing
want
heavy?
to see heavy?
You ain't seen nothing yet.
But in the process of doing this, I mean, it's got a heavy buttstock. But I did have to put weights in the forend, the entire length, and then I have one weight on the side, and I actually put that in a kind of a strategic position because, like the grips here, you'll see that they have a kind of a bubble in the grip. Mm-hmm. It's a palm swell. I have essentially using those weights as a palm swell. So when I reach my hand forward on the forend,
yeah.
If I grip in the gun, it fills that palm really well, and it just a little bit more stability for me.
Yeah, that's one thing I feel like is kind of lacking. If I'm being honest on this Barrett here, we got this giant, pretty heavy looking gun. Mm-hmm. And we got a little AR pistol grip
right
on it. I just don't know. Something about it doesn't quite match up.
Nice thing about this is you can just peel that off and stick one of those on there if you wanted to.
That's right. Justin, what would you do?
What
do you guys prefer?
I prefer the more vertical versus the best webbed. So,
yeah. Okay.
For me, ergonomically, it's just a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you see a lot of the competition guys doing, and again, a lot of the hunting community, the long range hunters and stuff like that. They're starting to go with that more vertical.
A lot of crossover between competition, military LE, and the hunting side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, it comes down to, like Justin said before, we're all shooting, so we all have to be able to hit the target, regardless of what that target is. So, that's a big thing about how I have this set up. Also, this has got a Mirage shield on it.
I was going to ask what that was. Is that I'm guessing it probably also adds weight. They probably didn't make it a carbon in order to reduce weight. They probably made it out of just, what is that made out of? Aluminum or steel or something?
It is aluminum.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not super heavy, but it does mitigate some of the barrel mirage that comes off there. If you're pumping a lot of rounds through this gun just to get it hot, and if I'm shooting super long range, that disturbance in my image can, for one, throw off impacts, and two, it makes it harder to identify like where you're holding on the target if the target image is blurry. But actually, funny enough, the primary reason why I put that there is that when I'm extending my hand forward and grabbing onto the gun, I got that palm swell with the weight, and it allows me to even put my thumb over top the barrel, and if I wanted to, I can even squeeze the hell out of it without actually pushing down my barrel.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. So free-floated, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Also, I don't know how... I guess that barrel's maybe not getting super hot, but it would prevent you from...
It won't get super hot, but like the Vortex Rampage last year, Jim C runs that match a little bit different than a lot of match directors do. Last year we had 2-man squads. So doing 2-man squads, you would shoot a stage, and then your partner would shoot the stage, and you come off, and then your partner who just shot would then shoot the next stage first. So that barrel had just got 12 rounds on it, and now you put another 12 rounds on it. Oh,
wow.
So,
yeah.
And it was hot as hell there. So those barrels were cooking.
Yeah. I have more questions after this one, but I just want to get this one out while I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Let's put it this way. Nick, why would you, or maybe the answer isn't going to be why you wouldn't, but why you would or something like that. But why would you not shoot a competition with this Barrett here? And you would with this gun.
That's actually a good question,
Justin,
Jim.
why would you head a field in the sandbox with this gun and not Nick's competition PRS style?
The way they're
gun?
set up currently, this current configuration.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, as is. I mean, I know caliber is going to be a big one. You probably don't want to try and, do whatever you guys have to do over there with a little 6mm.
Absolutely. You want to start this off, Nick?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So first of all, I have shot a Barrett MRAD, not in a match, but I've shot them through like PRS type stages before.
Oh, okay.
This gun actually does balance out pretty well, not as well as mine because mine's been essentially edited and customized to do that better. Where it would lack for me is probably somewhere in the trigger pull and some of the ergonomics. The gun has to be very comfortable so that you can wield it properly. So I like one of the things that's really nice about a chassis, and I mean this is obviously a chassis as well, but is they're so customizable for the user. It's one of the reasons why I like to use chassis if I'm ever like teaching somebody how to shoot, because I grab my gun that is in a chassis and we can set it up for that user. I mean, I took my 8-year-old niece shooting here a couple of months ago, and she's shooting a 22 out to 280 yards and shooting an 8-inch plate. I was able to do that with my rifle because it's in a chassis, and I was able to shorten the length of pull as much as possible, adjust the comb to the proper height for everything. So that's
that comfort and fit is such a big deal. I mean,
Essential.
I remember just starting out deer hunting with I think my Remington Game Master 7600 pump /6, right, where the scope was probably too high, the stock was too long, and I mean, literally you're fighting the rifle and working really hard almost to get like a brief sight picture.
Shooting a well set up rifle can actually be completely comfortable, even if it's a little bucky. It can be totally comfortable. You can just shoot it. All you got to do is you manage the recoil, but you don't have to fight it. It's not a drag to have to do.
Well,
But if you shoot a rifle that's not set up well, even if it's a 223, something like that, you're like, yeah.
Like, yeah, not a good experience. And we're kind of side tracking here, but I'd go as far to say, a lot of us are passionate about hunting and the shooting sports and want to share that and pass it along like you're talking about, Nick, which you're doing it right. If somebody had an experience where I don't know, it was heavy, I couldn't hold it, I couldn't see through the thing, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. That might turn a person off. They're like, yeah, shooting's not for me. Right. When it really was just a bad rifle setup.
It's a good way to start bad habits, too. I mean, if I just take that same 8-year-old niece and put her behind a 300 Wisdom,
even I wouldn't do that.
But she'll probably never want to shoot again, though. I mean, it's just an example. I mean, there's a lot of people that find it funny to take a first-time shooter and put a lightweight 12 gauge in their hands and say, all right, let's see. And then they're like, that's crap. I mean, that's how you... For one, if that person's ever going to shoot again, they're going to have a whole lot of horrible habits. Mm-hmm. And second of all, you probably just turn somebody off of shooting.
Yeah. Oh, here. Let's start your shooting. So you're scared of this thing,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One thing, getting back to this question here that we didn't mention before. So, Justin, this gun has a suppressor on the end of it. This Barrett here.
Yes.
Do a lot of sniper rifles have suppressors on the end of them, do you find?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that pretty par for the course?
It is, and not so much for sound reduction and things like that. Yes, that does come into play, but also signature reduction. So muzzle flash and things like that. Maybe you're shooting in and around vegetation. All that muzzle blast, again, can be kind of mitigated.
I'm guessing
a little
if you're in a hide with a spotter, the spotter's going to appreciate it too.
Absolutely. So again, with the sound mitigation and then signature reduction as well.
And then like you're
directional too is a huge thing,
yep,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, gun goes off the can on, it's harder to figure out what direction that came from.
Absolutely.
What about, you're talking about muzzle blast too, because I know I've shot, different breaks and different environments every now and again, and if you're in a really light, dusty environment that kicks up all that dirt, is the suppressor helping mitigate that as well? Is that going to do that less or no?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
So you're still going to get, obviously, you're always going to have muzzle blast. It's
right.
I mean, you can't really overcome that.
Yeah.
But then again, kind of going back to the hunting side of things, I feel like a hunting rifle should have a brake on it. The reason being is because, again, helping with that recoil mitigation and everything like that, it's going to make, when you guys were talking about comfortability and things like that, that felt recoil is going to be mitigated a little bit with a decent brake on it. So again, if you have that, 8-year-old, all right, with that 300 Wisdom, maybe a brake might make that a little bit more comfortable for her to shoot.
Because like a Nick, that was kind of, I was getting there, because you don't have a suppressor on your count gun. Not many people do.
No,
for their competitions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The suppressor thing was like a big deal. Like when back in the early days of tactical field matches or PRS, whatever you want to call it. And the reason for that is because it's pleasant. When you don't have to wear ear pro, or you don't, like, if you stand next to somebody while they're shooting, you don't blow out your eardrums. That's wonderful. But the downside of a suppressor is it does not reduce recoil nearly as much as a good muzzle
A
brake.
lot of heat coming off those as well.
A lot of heat coming off it. So I put a barrel mirage shield on here to stop the barrel mirage.
wouldn't
If
save
you
you from-
put a can on there, you're talking like double or triple the amount of mirage.
Yeah, that's why I've always used one of those Coltac suppressor wraps. But even still, it'll just cook around it after you shoot enough.
Right, yeah. I think if you're using a suppressor, you need a suppressor cover, period. But yeah, even that, you can't stop it altogether.
They can only work for so long before the thing just becomes so dang hot. But okay, so your gun is a bit more customizable in how it's set up. You've also gone in and customized it everything about this is purpose built for you. And Justin mentioned before, when you're a sniper, usually you're going in, you join the unit, the gun is part of the unit, you kind of grab it off the rack and have to figure it out real fast and make it sort of fit you. But it's got to be able to adapt to 5'8" sniper dude that comes in and 6'8" sniper dude that comes in.
Absolutely.
And so they're probably making it more of like a one-size-fits-all, and that'll...
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And kind of going back to what Nick said, there's a lot of crossover. Some competition guys are going back to the military law enforcement side of things, and vice versa. That being said, you can look at these two rifles. There's a lot of crossover. We already talked about the suppressor on there. Really, the only other difference mainly would be the caliber, which we already touched on. But again, going back to that real estate. Again, Nick has that heat shield on there, but you can also probably put a shroud on there, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
if you wanted to put a clip on in front, you can do so.
A clip on for...
So for clip on night vision or thermals and things like that. Thermals are becoming really big, even on the hunting side of things with predator control or hogs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, having that real estate to add on those clip-on night vision thermals or laser illuminators and things like that. But really looking at them, they're pretty similar because again, there's a lot of that crossover as well.
Aside from the suppressor thing is, so that one's got a big break on it and it's chambered in 6mm. Is there anything else that is preventing you from and say you put a rail out front there, so you could clip on night vision, something like that. Is there anything else that's preventing you from taking this afield as a sniper? Is it too heavy for you as is? Like you're okay with a kind of heavy gun, but not
absolutely.
like a full on.
This Barrett MRAD still probably outweighs that rifle.
Oh, you think this is heavier?
I think so.
Is it?
It might be close.
This is about 25.
I mean,
it's going to be.
I don't know. I'd have to.
It'll be
check the
close.
spec
They're in the realm
sheet.
of each other, no doubt.
So,
Wow.
but that being said, honestly, the trigger. What do you have right now for a trigger? Ounces?
It actually used to
pounds.
be. I've reverted myself back for a lot of reasons, which we can get into if you want. But I've actually cranked that up to about a pound, maybe
A pound?
yeah.
Okay. So again, when you're talking about competition side
It
versus
was about 8 ounces though.
so we'll use 8 ounces.
Yeah.
So pretty light.
Yeah.
I mean, you breathe on it, you barely touch it. As soon as you place your finger anywhere near that thing, it's going off.
Look at it wrong.
Yeah. So, but again, going back to knowing your equipment and things like that. So the trigger, the poundage is again probably pretty big. A lot of the guns on the military side of things might be set up around that 3 pound mark, give or take a little bit.
Okay.
Because again, definitely don't want that round going off when obviously you don't intend to do so.
Yeah.
But again, the trigger pull weight is going to be another big difference, and also the trigger itself. There's a lot of triggers out there that work great. There's a lot of reputable manufacturers, but again, some may be susceptible a little bit more to this certain environment, whether it's dust and things like that, maybe moisture. Possibilities are endless. But again, the trigger is one of those things again where I might not want to take that rifle out.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big thing, I think, and I can't speak from experience by any means. However, I would say that the highly tuned competition rifle might be a little bit more finicky in
Sure. Yeah.
in less than perfect environments.
Because most competition shooters, I would probably say across the board, hand load.
Yep,
Almost
most of them.
I mean, most of them, a good majority. And again, unit dependent on the military side of things. Sans a few aren't hand loading.
Right.
So again, when Nick was talking about being finicky and things like that, we're talking about whether it's jump and things like that, chamber pressure. These may have those tolerances built in.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
From the manufacturer, where that's actually a custom rifle. Some people, take a round, they build a gun around the caliber versus the other way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it seems kind of like the sniper rifle is similar in a lot of ways to a custom competition gun, but they just had to make it more one size fits most, and also more adaptable to kind of any environment.
absolutely.
Like if you stripped out some of the super personalized details, and you made it kind of we'll make this a little bit more applicable to kind of anyone who picks it up.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what you got.
And then again, I don't want to say reliability issues or anything like that, but more consistency as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I already know the reason I didn't ask you is because I already know all the reasons why you'd say you wouldn't.
I
take
can't
this.
talk about my sniping, Jim.
I already know all the reasons why you
I
wouldn't
didn't do
take
it.
this
Can't speak to it.
Folding, things
into the
like that.
field.
Oh.
Or wait, what were we going
this
to say,
one's
Jim?
not.
I interrupted.
Well,
What?
actually, I hear these guys over here. They're discussing
some of the
Justin
other
has-
things.
Justin's little sniper rifle here's got a cool folding buttstock.
Yeah, so it is 8 feet long, but you might be able to, mitigate some of that length by, again, the folding buttstock and things like that. So when you are, carrying this thing up and down mountains or, moving in and around urban terrain, maybe having that folded buttstock, and then again collapsed while you have it in your pack or something like that. Again, this would not be maybe my primary firearm, when I'm deployed, if you will.
I've never been a sniper, Justin. So, and I've never had to carry around a Barrett in some mountain or city overseas. I am a bit skeptical as to whether or not folding that stock really even does anything for
Not
how portable.
by
that
much.
thing
But again,
is.
kind of
It's-
going back to when you, Dave, right?
Yeah.
Ounces equal pounds type of thing. Again, you can kind of take that same mantra and then go with length as well.
Sure.
Kind of
Right.
inches add up and things like that. So
That's
again, any way you can kind of mitigate some of that overall length.
Yeah.
So,
What
or even getting into the gun case itself.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
what are you reaching for more? Like just from, and it probably depends on what kind of, I guess, situations are arising more often, but are you going for the gas gun or the bolt gun?
My personal experience was a gas gun.
Okay.
Just because, again, the terrain kind of dictated that.
Mm-hmm.
So the gas gun, easily capable of reaching out to whatever distance I needed to. But again, it's a little bit more maneuverable, in and around vehicles as well.
Mhm.
So
A little bit more, maneuverable, versatile.
lighter. I can, shoulder fire it a lot easier
Right.
and manipulate it that way versus, something as unwielding as this. You're not really going to be shoulder firing or shooting this offhand.
Yeah.
You actually mentioned the maneuvering in and around vehicles. We shoot out of cars and stuff in competition a lot. But shooting in and out around cars, one of the downsides of a bolt gun is the fact that when you pull the trigger and you need to take another shot, you got to rack that bolt.
Oh,
and if
sure.
you're squeezed into a tight space, like in the back seat of a car, you might not have enough room there, and you have to get out of position to get a new round.
Oh,
in.
yeah.
So yeah, that's I can certainly see where the gas gun would come in handy there.
Yeah. What I was getting at earlier, though, Mark, is I was thinking to myself, I know all the reasons already, pretty much, why you wouldn't take one of these into the field hunting-wise.
Right.
But I was going to direct our attention over to some guns that we actually already have, that we built.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say that Nick and I built mine. Yours just, you paid a guy. But these guns over here, I'm just
Put your
going to
finger-
hold.
I really
Pick you
don't
up,
have a
Mark.
rebuttal to
I'm
that.
gonna hold-
That's exactly what happened.
I'm going to hold mine up. See, I can at least actually pick it up with one arm. It's not easy, but I can pick it up with one arm while it's on the table. Now, right here, we've got something that I genuinely feel is a good do-all for the most part.
Yeah.
Would it be a mountain gun? No, because it still weighs 12 pounds. I mean,
It's a little
preferred.
more. It's more than
probably
12 pounds.
14.
We're gonna post the weight. We're gonna weigh this thing.
It's not more than 14. Maybe it is, but okay.
It's probably about.
Is it a mountain gun? Maybe not.
No.
Not my ideal mountain gun. But what did we hunt with it? Both you and I have agreed. Yeah.
Well, I did hunt with it.
You did hunt with it. That's right. We did. Yeah. We actually, and you hoofed it around a good bit out there in Nebraska on that coyote hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from personal experience. Did it work? Yes. Could I do it again? Absolutely.
You needed a sling.
Did I love carrying it? No. Yeah, if we had a sling, that would have made it probably quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like just having an accessory would have made it a way better experience for sure. So that would have been a difference maker. We didn't have that. I think we brought one, but then it ended up we just
and we messed up. Could hunt with it. It doesn't look dramatically modern and weird. It has some semblance of a traditional shape to it.
Absolutely.
I shot, or I've shot in competition style stages and stuff like that with Nick out at the range.
Yep.
Right. I've shot it off rooftops and off of a thing that looks like the Tetris piece or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Shot it off some of that stuff before the barricade. Right. So it's done that.
The Tetris.
And Justin, at one point, I saw him look over and point at it during this podcast and said, "You could use that as a sniper."
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a sniper rifle as well. But I think that, anyway, what I'm getting at, though, is that you can kind of make somewhat of a hybrid of all these different things. It's kind of going to be maybe a jack of all trades, master of none. I don't know. But we've got something here that's
I'd be
at least
curious,
sort of close.
And I don't know if Justin can speak to this or not, but I would imagine that possibly not even that many years ago, what Jim has there right there might have been a pretty high-speed, long-range sniper gun.
Absolutely. Because we've talked about, the evolution of rifles across the board. And again, you were talking like a jack of all trades thing. I know people have tried to do that with rifles, with optics and things like that. And it's really hard to do and do it right.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, because I'm sure there's things if I were going to just full on get into PRS, I'd want to change about this gun. Or if I were going to is Red Dawn and I was going to be part of Wolverines and the sniper team and Wolverines, I'd probably want to change some stuff about this. Or if it was going to be just hunting, I'd want to change some stuff about this.
Right.
But kind of, I'm kicking around the idea of doing all of them. I could kind of do all of them with this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And looking at the table and the array of guns that are here, there's definitely that overlap as well.
You can see little hints of everything we've talked about across all of them.
Even with the hunting rifles now, they have that adjustable, comb height built into the buttstocks and things like that.
Oftentimes, yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and sometimes it's a consideration. Do I want that adjustability, or does a stock that has that higher cheek comb but is more fixed, but you're probably going to shave a little weight by not having the adjustable? You're kind of weighing a couple things there. I could probably argue that both ways. And again, on the hunt side, maybe I'm just a pansy. I like a lighter weight gun, but I'm also I want to be able to execute that long range shot, and I want to be able to practice to execute all the fundamentals that go along with that shot. But I'm really hoping just to shoot once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if everything goes right and I can have that bullet hit where it needs to go, I mean, obviously you have to have the ability to follow up at the same time. But maybe, the level of precision that you might need at a PRS match of, I need to spot my miss. Was it, or even heck, half the time you guys are spotting your hits. It was a hit on a tiny plate, but was it the left edge of the plate? Maybe a little bit less critical, and I'm not trying to minimize the fact that you're shooting at an animal or something like that. You just hit him anywhere, because that's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But just a different set of needs there.
Right. No, you're right. A lot of it comes down to determining what level of precision is necessary for the application.
That's a good way to put it, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah,
I think that's a fair statement. I mean, there's a reason why my competition rifle is essentially, it shares a lot of characteristics of, let's say, an F-class rifle, something, because we're looking for that little edge. If my gun was consistently every day capable of a half minute of accuracy, I'd be tickled to death. I know guys that would not be happy with it ever crossing over a quarter minute, though. And in order to have that type of consistent level of precision, you need to put a lot into that gun, and it needs to be customized and made to do it.
Yeah.
If your requirement was, let's say, minute of man, there's a lot of different things you can use, and you can make it less custom built for an individual, and you can make it usable by many, and still serve the purpose properly.
Yeah.
Nick, hold on. I just want to mention, Nick brought up F-class, which we don't have an example necessarily of an F-class rifle
well,
here.
That's because it's for weirdos.
Okay, now
Where's Ian?
you're going to wish that you could cut things out, because I was going to plug the podcast that we did with the Ian Clem, and where we talk all about F-class, and we have all those
It's
cool
a phenomenal
rifles up
episode. No, F-class is really cool.
one of the more popular
The only
ones.
reason I call them weird is because I'm jealous that they're smarter than me.
Ian is
But
phenomenally smart.
But one thing I was going to get at too is the mobility aspect of it. Mark, you brought up having to hopefully shoot once, maybe twice in an animal or something like that when you're in a hunting situation, and the level of accuracy needed. We all agree that you need a high level of accuracy out of the rifle, precision in the shot, and all that stuff has to come together in order to execute a proper shot. I think the one unique thing is on your hunt, even let's say you have to make a follow-up shot, 2 shots, whole hunt, right?
Right.
Where you go to a PRS match, you have to account for 200 rounds over that PRS match. You're a sniper out in who knows where. You probably got more than 2 rounds on you when you head out about.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
You may
I would
shoot
hope so.
a little more than 2 rounds.
4, right?
Sometimes, sometimes you might not shoot any.
Yeah, that's a good.
Oh,
point
that is
too.
like hunting then.
It is actually. I was going to say what they do is it is still hunting.
There's a
That
Jesse Ventura quote in there, I think. Have you seen The Predator?
No, wait,
Oh.
no.
Wait, what is it?
What'd he say?
Oh. I can't do it, but
Damn it.
I've hunted
shoot.
man.
Oh,
Muckenhern does it so good.
But what I'm getting at is that in the hunting situation, a lot of times mobility is key.
exactly.
And so therefore
Even
you're,
for that
you're
follow-up shot.
sacrificing and you're sacrificing some of the weapon stability,
Yes.
and which is a big thing for both these applications we talked about with Nick and Justin. The ability for it to be a stable platform, for it to fit you, like all this stuff that's going to help you make better shots more consistently over like a arduously, usually long, mentally taxing situation, stage after stage after stage after stage, or like baking in the sun and just staring at who knows what and hoping that your eventual target ever comes by or that you see something, right? Because like you're
that
gonna
actually
have those
sounds
days,
like hunting as well.
right? Yeah, so there's that. But I'm not saying hunting isn't arduous sometimes, but the weapon stability there is so important.
Yeah.
And here you're usually willing to give some up in order to just have it be mobile, so you can get to
Yeah.
more places, get over that next hill, all that stuff. But yeah, and the other thing too that I was thinking to myself as well is like, sometimes people talk about an accurate rifle, and they might think of like this gun over here, Nick's gun, or this giant Barrett here as being like more accurate than a hunting rifle. And hunting rifles are usually a lot lighter. And sometimes I'm sitting there scratching my head like, you sure that 7-pound rifle isn't as accurate as one of these other guns? Like, are you sure it's not a half-minute gun?
No, I guess the driver.
Or is it also just, like you said, the driver? I mean, anybody can sit behind Nick's 25-pound rifle. And as long as Nick dials the turrets and stuff like that, it's generally a really easy gun to just put on the target, pull the trigger, because the trigger's not also, that heavy. Even at 1 pound, it's not that heavy. Boom, you hit it. You get something that's a little bit more lightweight like this. It's moving around a lot. You got to get situated behind it just right. You're going to be a little more worried about how snappy it might feel. 6.5 Creedmoor, not exactly, but your 300 Wisdom for certain. And it's harder to actually see, too, like on the target, the accuracy that maybe the rifle is capable of. Because, like you said, the driver just isn't quite part of the gun the way they could be if it were, had some of these more features.
Or you're almost like
more.
more part of the gun in a way. You're having more influence.
You're closer to, the explosion.
Shootability is important, definitely. I mean, that's probably a made-up word, probably, but shootability. I mean, the ability to get behind that gun and to be able to shoot it well, regardless of like what position you're in, how comfortable you are. That's important. I mean, that the lighter weight gun's going to be harder to shoot. I mean, repeatable over and over and over. It doesn't mean that the gun itself is not as, precise.
Yeah.
Right.
There is some things about, barrel contour and barrel length and stuff that definitely plays a role in how repeatably precise something is.
Mm-hmm.
However,
for example, you're not going to take, a small sporter barrel into one of those competitions and see how long that lasts up for, going back to your accuracy.
Be cooked real quick.
You have to shoot, 10 rounds in short succession. It's just not going to happen. But for 2 rounds, maybe, or 1 round, it might be
over
dead
the
on.
course of a week.
Yeah, I mean, it might be absolutely dead on. So I feel like we keep trying to come up with all these reasons why like hunting rifles are badass, but then every time we were saying those, we're like, oh yeah, well actually snipers do that too. They just do it with a way heavier gun. So
Right.
I think
I think they're all badass, Jim.
they are.
They're guns.
Okay. Well, we just talked about a lot of guns. What a fun day. Anything else?
That's pretty amazing that we get to do that. That's pretty awesome.
What for the listeners out there, what's your long range setup looking like, and what do you use it for mostly? If you're hunting with it, if it's more of a precision gun, doesn't have to be, again, long range hunting doesn't necessarily need to be 1,000 yards or something like that. But if you have a more precision oriented hunting rifle, what's it like? Is your emphasis on lightweight, or are you like Nick, where it's got to be perfectly balanced? You don't care if it's 14 pounds. And other stuff out there too. You got a competition rifle, maybe you're listening, and you've got the latest, greatest in military or law enforcement sniper rifle that your unit just got. Shout it out in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or over on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear it. What do you guys think?
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Fun talk.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
There you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, give this video a like if you liked it, comment something below, and give us a subscribe to the Vortex Nation podcast channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, why don't you give us a follow over on Instagram while you're at it, at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you over there, and we'll keep you updated with all kinds of cool photos and videos from our adventures that we do here. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Thank you again. Happy hunting and shooting, everybody. Have a good one.